to start making Japan the chosen country, international labor migration dynamics, and Indonesia, held by JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute for Peace and Development. I am Shinjiro Amameshi. I will be the MC in today's webinar. First, let's welcome Mr. Miyahara Chie, Director General of JICA Ogata Research Institute for Peace and Development, to give a few words.
Thank you so much for attending today's Knowledge Forum titled Making Japan the Chosen Country, International Labor Migration and Dynamics in Indonesia, presented by JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute for Peace and Development. JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute has hosted Knowledge Forum since 2019 to initiate vigorous discussions on topics related to international development. Today marks 19th forum, and we chose international labor migrations to Japan as a theme. Japan has faced serious and chronic labor shortage in industries due to low birth rate with aging society and fewer labor forces attributed to population decline, and it's now accepting more foreign workers. The government expert panel compiled the final report in the last month, which states that it will establish a new system to develop and secure human resources, replacing the existing technical intern training program. This is an ongoing reform in Japan aimed at creating an inclusive society where everyone can live safely and comfortably. While the nation's accepting foreign talent, labor migration is becoming a global trend. Migration has increased globally, and over 6 million workers from Asian nations migrate annually. For Japan to be chosen for foreign workers, it should provide not just a safe workplace, but a future vision to be an attractive destination for them. From that aspect, a bilateral collaboration between Japan, who receives migrant workers, and the country who sends them to Japan will be critical, and the route selection mechanism in the sending country plays a key role in the collaboration. To take that into account, JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute studies labor migrations to Japan, and we focus on Indonesia, who sets a target of 100,000 migrant workers to Japan in 5 years' time. The Institute analyzes factors that affect individual decision-making on international labor migration, from preparation to departure, with multifaceted viewpoints. Today's Knowledge Forum will report on safe and attractive routes for migration and Japan's position from Indonesia's viewpoint based on the panel data of migrant laborers from Indonesia from 2017 to 2022, as well as interviews with people from government, training institute, sending agencies, recruiters, and foreign job seekers. The panel discussion will invite researchers from Indonesia in Japan to discuss what's important to establish safe and attractive route for migration in the context of a different local environment and conditions. I hope that a forum will be an opportunity to cultivate our understanding of international labor migration to Japan together with other attendees, and to vigorously discuss what we need to build a safe and attractive migration route in a sending country. Thank you. Thank you, Miyahara-san. So there are two parts, presentation and a panel discussion. So let me actually introduce our panelist, Saito Kiyoko, Senior Research Fellow of JICA's Ogata Sadako Research Institute, Professor Asai Akiko of Oberlin University, Budiant, Firman, the head researcher of BRIN, Indonesian National Research and Innovation Agency, Professor Gracia of Waseda University, and Nishida Motoyuki, who is joining us from Indonesia, JICA expert in Indonesia. Thank you. So all these five panelists will join the panel discussion later. And senior researcher Saito will lead discussion. So let us move on to the presentation by the panelists. First, we will invite senior researcher Saito, who will explain the purpose of the Knowledge Forum, followed by the presentation of Professor Asai, researcher Firman, and senior researcher Saito, respectively. Now, floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining today's forum. Not just in Japan, but many places around the world, the labor has been an issue. So today I would like to talk about from the viewpoint of making Japan the chosen countries. And also I would like to bring up some topics and issues that we need to address. So first of all, I would like to set the tone of the topic. So according to the calculation conducted back in 2022 by JICA, nearly 6.74 million foreign workers are needed in Japan. That means that 420,000 foreign laborers will be insured in 20 years. So the discussion already started how we're going to secure the foreign laborers. But today, based on such discussion, how we're going to aim to secure laborers accepting the overseas workers. And this will be as the first step to discuss our future vision. And in JICA, has been working on the studies to really understand the mechanism of the international migrant workers. And also during the course of discussion, hopefully we can have a better understanding of our vision for the future in that context. So first of all, why people seek for international labor migration? 94% of the people in Indonesia say that economic reason is the one for them, and the skill development was just only the 1% of the people's answer. Into your right on this slide, so the higher, it's not like the higher is better according to the income and information to your right, and Japan is not the highest income earning countries according to this data. So there's been a long history in terms of the international, like the migration of labor. So the push and pull theory has been such a profile theory. So starting from that theory, there are like some high income countries which are not chosen because the migration happens when the risk and the benefit are perfectly matched. So that's the risk benefit theory. So, and also not only the passive migration, but there is the proactive passive. So there are so many different theories, including migration network theory. And recently in Japan, government or local, these are the macro or meso factors, but also the individual level of the factors will give an impact on the decision of the individuals. So aspiration and capabilities are some other factors that we've been paying attention to as a part of the theory called aspiration and capability theory. According to this theory, once the aspiration and capability of individuals increase, and that would initiate more like an active a process for the individual to choose the destination. The reason to increase in aspiration and capability in the process of such increase of the aspiration and capabilities are not clarified yet. So our studies focus on that point to really clarify and have a better understanding aspiration and capability changing process to be unraveled. So try to grasp and have better understanding of the future international migration from the bottom up or from the macro perspective, and not after the people on migrating to the destination, but we actually focus on the entire processes. And why people look for the opportunity abroad, and why do people decide a destination and job? Such a decision making is tied to not only the aspiration, but also the capability that they are certain that they can get the job and the destination. So an aspiration and the capability are tied to the labor market factors and the government factors, as well as community factors, which is a meso factor. There are so many like the host countries. So nearly 100,000 like migrant workers is the ambitious target set by the Indonesia. And this is actually a part of our studies that I would like to share with you today. So Indonesia, as one of the sending countries, they send workforces to Taiwan or Singapore or Malaysia, and Japan has been really raising its rank, receiving high expectation on its nation. But Saudi Arabia, which has a long history as in host countries, but there's been an issue of the human rights. So because of the banning by the governments to send laborers to such like the destination, Spain attributed to like lower rank of such countries. So 22 and 23 survey targeting job seekers, and also the training institutes and community members and sending companies. We conducting interviews, and I would like to share a part of the result of such surveys. And based on them, we are continuous to work on the understanding. As a result of the interviews, so the people position in regard to Japan as a dream countries means that they dream of it, but they do not choose it as a destination. The reason for that is the anime food and the safety. The reason why they do not choose to go is that the long preparation time, like rigorous training, and too meticulous. And there are so many trainings and learnings and very difficult of the exam, but the income level is not that high. And some other reasons are that there aren't so many people around oneself who've already experienced the countries in opposition by people around the person. When Indonesian decide the destination, internal or domestic international labor migration process in the Indonesia is critical. So as I can show here, the job seeker needs to go through from 0 to 7 or 6. So they need to acquire the certificate to prove that the person is qualified for the job, and they need to make a registration on the database, filling in and enter the necessary data to complete the process. Once the database registration is completed and the person is allowed to go on to the interview and to move on to the sending procedures. Once all the procedure is completed, the person is required to take an orientation before they send to the destination. This is just a principle. And actually, as the situation vary from region to region of the destination, and the process really different. For example, in Malaysia, the process is much shorter. The shortest is 2 weeks. In Japan, it takes over 6 months. And many of the job seekers first go to people in the community or ask the recruiter to come over to them to encourage them to take job outside of the nation. So I want you to keep in this mind before listening to the result of the survey. But first of all, we would like to invite Professor Asai, who we will talk about the international migration and labor, how they actually choose the job, sharing us the actual cases to talk about aspiration and capability. So over to you, Professor Asai.
I am Asai from Oberlin University. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity today. I would like to give a presentation about the profile of the research participants and then go into the hypothesis that will be considered. First, this is the qualitative research participants, which we carried out before the quantitative analysis. The gender is 50-50 and the average age is 25. Religion, mostly Muslim, 90%, and in Sumatra mainly 10% was Christian. Family members, single 89% and married at 26% and divorced 6%. The pie chart on the right-hand side shows you the destination, and 30% is constituted Malaysia, followed by Taiwan, and then Japan. Then there are people seeking jobs within the country, and Hong Kong, Romania, and so forth. With regard to education, as you can see, the majority is shared by high school graduates, followed by diplomas, 3 years in college, then with diplomas and bachelors. Next, this chart shows you the average of the educational level. The left-hand side is the average where only 10% have the diploma, but for those limited to Japan, 30% have the diploma, which indicates that in order to go to Japan, they are expecting to have a higher level of education. This is the image of Japan from the perspective of the people that we interviewed. In the case of Japan, we are safe and also high salary, and our culture is attractive, including anime. This is quite similar to our neighbor, Korea, but the downside is the lengthy procedures and the high agency fee. In the case of Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore, they have a good salary, but the procedure is quite short. In Malaysia, the best part is the proximity, because for some of the people who live in the local areas, it's even more closer than Jakarta. However, there's heavy labor and low salary. Saudi Arabia is quite accessible, but the downside is the abuse by the employer. And that has been pointed out. I would like to introduce to you the 5 cases that we have surveyed. The first case is female, first migration, graduated from high school in Damaru. Because she didn't have any work, she went to Jakarta to get a job from her relatives. And so she worked as a shopkeeper and a housekeeper. But in 2022, she decided she wanted to change her destiny. She didn't actually want to go abroad. She wanted to stay at home, but she couldn't find any jobs. And so she consulted one of her relatives, and she recommended Hong Kong is good. She wasn't sure whether Hong Kong was actually good, but she decided to go anyway because she wanted to get out of the poverty. In this case, economic needs made contributions to increasing aspiration because she could not find a job within the country, as well as the consultation she made was limited to the relatives. She didn't try anything to get additional information. Actually, this is one of the typical cases in terms of gathering information amongst the interviewees. The second case is Leah, who has a lot of experience in working overseas. She graduated from junior high school in 2003. She decided to go overseas to support her family. She consulted her aunt who had experience working as a housemaid, and she decided to go to Saudi and then Qatar, Dubai, and Oman starting from 2007. Her earnings have increased from $80, 160, and eventually to $200. After coming home to Indonesia, she bought a piece of land and built a house. And then she decided to work in Taiwan in 2013. This is because one of her friends recommended her to do that. And her earnings had jumped up to $460 after 3 years. She built an automobile service station. She got married in 2018 and divorced after 4 years. And she said that she wanted to change her life once again. And because her friend was working in Taiwan, just recommended, she decided to go to Hong Kong. The aspiration is basically information from our relatives, and the life stage change has triggered her to make a decision. And because she had overseas experience and she had a network of home host countries, she had built up her capability. The next case is Nora, is a person who is quite religious and is intending to go to Poland. He graduated from Muslim high school in Lombok, which is an area which is quite poor. He used to work at his sister's retail store, but he wanted to become independent. He worked in Saudi Arabia for 3 years near the pilgrimage site as a cleaner. This has a huge meaning because it is a pilgrimage site. He mentioned that his family was proud of his job. Before he went to Saudi Arabia, he had to stay in a place called Gadaf, which was a place the agency had assigned. And it took quite a long time. But he said that he didn't want any worries because he was confident that he could get the job. Things like this happen, that they will be just used by this kind of agencies. He got married in 2021 and decided to go to Poland to support his family. And he looked for a job without any skills because the payment was good. And his dream is to build a Muslim school dormitory in the future. A religious objective is his aspirations, but at the same time, there's a fear that he can be exploited by the agencies. And because he got married, this has further enforced his aspiration. He missed some choice without any skills. So it means that he looked for a place that he can go, that is where he's capable of getting a job. The fourth case is a male who gave up going to Japan and went to Malaysia. He graduated from technical high school, changed several jobs in the construction industry. He wanted to go to Malaysia, but because of COVID, he could not go. And he has applied to get technical training, but he could not get his offer matched. And he was not satisfied because the procedures were lengthy and also expensive. And that's the reason why he decided to change his destination to Malaysia. And it was more comfortable because he knew many people who work in Malaysia. He said that he needs some money to support his two young siblings. Going to Japan is encouraged by the sending company, but their capability is not that big because of competitors in matching time and money. This is the reason why he changed the destination to Malaysia, because it's near and the work is quite fast. The final case is August, 24-year-old male. He applied in specified skills. He loves anime, and he also studied Japanese language in a private university. After graduation, he wanted to go to Japan. However, due to the request of his parents, he took the civil service examination, which ended up in a failure. He started his own business, manufacturing. And then in 2021, he started preparing to go to Japan as a technical trainee. He interviewed with several food processing companies, but it was unsuccessful. And he was not really sure about how expensive it would be. A friend of him informed him that the competition for technical training is quite high, and also that he will not be able to get back home after 30 years if he enrolled in this. And as a result, he chose the specified skills program, which require special skills, but he had a certification in food processing, which he got online. And that's the reason why he applied to Japan. Now, this is a kind of a rare case, but some people acquire some skills so that they will be able to open the door to get to Japan. He was interested in Japan. That was his aspiration, but also he improved his capability about getting his skill. Now let's look at the consideration of hypothesis of aspiration and capability. In the first place, aspiration is a collective. They choose the destination and the job that they want to get, mostly based on the information from the community, that is to say, from relatives and friends. That is a collective rather than the individual selection. And this is sometimes blocks the independent decision. And also aspirations are multi-layered. Basically, the majority is economic needs, but in some cases it is religious. At the same time, economic needs depends on the life stage of that person. For example, getting married, having children, that makes a difference in the economic needs of a person. The potential aspiration is another element that we should look on. And this makes it more complicated. Now this is the consideration capability. We have to look at from micro, meso, and macro. We have to look at from all these contexts. The capability in a sense is more subjective. A person can make efforts to improve its capabilities, such as in the last case. For example, in skills and education, people can make efforts to improve capability. At the same time, experience working abroad with the network that will be created through the people they get to know can be the assets to improve one's capability. At the same time, it requires a lot of costs and also lengthy preparations. That is an element to decrease capability. And Saito Sensei will get the summary later on. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
浅井先生、ありがとうございまし
Thank you,
た。
Professor Asai. So moving on to the researcher Budiant. He is from National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN. He will talk about the implementation and challenges in Indonesia labor migration policies.
Following up on Asai Sensei's presentation on more micro aspect, I would like to address some of the recent policies in Indonesian labor migration and discuss how such kind of policies would have implications on migrant workers' decision making. In 2017, the Indonesian government enacted a new law on the protection of migrant workers. So the Indonesian government aims to promote labor migration from Indonesia initially from non-skilled workers to skilled workers. And the government also want to protect overseas job seekers from in all aspects of their migration journeys, from pre-departure, during the migration period, and also until they return to Indonesia. However, the implementation of the new law has some kind of major implications, such as for every migrant work seekers have to have like appropriate skills and competence certificate so that they can go abroad. This is also indicating shifting from non-skilled workers to like more skilled workers. The implementation of the new the new policies by government also has three major consequences. First, improving the skill of migrant overseas job seekers by separating sending companies and training centers. Second one is preventing overseas job seekers from overcharged by sending companies by regulating the maximum costs. And the third one is creating a safe migration route from a village to departure by implementing the migrant workers registration and database system. However, in our fieldwork, the implementation of the government policies to protect the migrant workers seems to causing some problems. Complicated procedure leads to confusion for migrant job seekers and prevents them to make a self-determination. These presentations demonstrated complicated procedures and causing some problem. In this presentation, I will briefly discuss three major policies. First is separating the training centers and sending companies. Second is the regulation of maximum cost by cost structures and implementation of the migrant workers registration and database. The first policy is the separation of training center and sending companies. As mentioned by Saito Sensei, this is the overall process, sending process that migrant work seekers have to follow. Before the implementation of the law 2019, the sending companies used to handle all process and procedures to send the migrant workers. But by the end of the 2017, the government separated the sending companies and training centers. As the the separation itself actually aims to increase the number and quality of training in training centers. However, we found that there are so many challenges in the implementation, and for example, the first challenges is the number of training centers in rural area is still limited. Second one, the quality and of training in every training center is also not standardized. So that's why the good quality of training is vary in every migrant work seekers. And for the as the consequences, the information regarding migrant works is still limited in this community level, and it makes the capacity building for overseas job seekers becoming more still insufficient. Okay, the second policy is the regulation of maximum fee that migrant work seekers have to pay. In 2022, the Indonesian government, through the BP2MI, or the body for the protection and placement of overseas workers, in 2022, the government set regulation on the maximum sending fee. It is called cost structure. The cost structure itself actually aims to set a clear responsibility between employer and work seekers. However, as we can see on the table, there are 15 elements for each employers and job seekers. And actually, the cost structure itself is based on a job title and also country. However, there are many challenges in the implementation of the cost structures. For example, a training fee is not indicated in the cost structure, even though there are 15 elements in the cost structure. The training fee is not indicated in the cost structure. And that's why the training fees is vary in each training center. Besides, the regulations on technical training fees are different and is separated in the cost structures, because Indonesian government and also Japanese government don't consider technical training as a worker, so that's why it is not regulated in the cost structure. And the following challenges is that there are many information regarding fee, and it is categorized by types. That's why all the complicated cost structures result in kind of unclear information on the fees that migrant work seekers have to pay. The third policy is the implementation of the new database called Siap Kerja and Cisco. The government actually initially has implemented this database and registration system since 2013, and it is changing now. The government through Cisco handle there are 15 stakeholders here that migrants that each of them has responsibility regarding the sending process of migrant work seekers, and every migrant work seeker have to follow all the procedures set by these stakeholders. This existing Cisco is already complicated, and in 2023 February this year, the government through Ministry of Manpower introduced the new system called Siap Kerja. So since February this year, migrant work seekers have to register not only to Cisco but also to Siap Kerja, and it makes the procedure even more becoming more complicated, and migrant work seekers find it quite difficult to follow. So actually the aim of the database system is actually good, to protect the work seekers from the village to departure. However, we found the challenge that they find it difficult to follow, and also that there are many stakeholders, and there is so many stakeholders, but the information regarding the procedure is not really clear for the migrant work seekers. Okay, and for the summary, so we found in our throughout this presentation, I have discussed the implementation and challenges brought by the Indonesian labor migration policies. We found that Indonesian government policies have implemented the policies to protect the migrant work seekers. However, the policies were found like to create even more complex and complicated routes for migrant work seekers. All the complicated procedures eventually leads to confusion for overseas job seekers and prevents them to make active decisions and self-determinations. Thank you very much. I will give back to Saito.
はい、ボディアント先生、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Budiant sensei. From now on, I would like to summarize the research result, and also I would like to talk about what will be an attractive and safe migration route. And I want to think this problem together with you. As you can see from we have just introduced, it does not necessarily mean that those who go to other countries will not decide that from the first place. While they consult with many people, they in the end select the destination and job. And after we ask a question whether they are satisfied with that, in the beginning, the majority of them will answer yes. And at a glance, it would look like that they are satisfied with their own decision. But as we interview and explore their real feelings, it was not the case. And many people have answered that the destination that they have chosen in the end was not the place that they wanted to go, and answered that they will not choose that destination again. And the government is also promoting a policy to go abroad. But at the same time, the community is actually becoming a hindrance in the individual's decision to make a decision on the job and the destination. Next, when we look at how the individual decision making for destination and job is impacted by the community and other factors. The cases that was given from Professor Asai can be categorized into various levels of aspiration and capability. The first case has followed the advice of the relatives who went to Hong Kong. This person just followed the recommendation without making a clear individual division. On the other hand, cases 2 and 3, capability increased, and as a result, aspiration increased. Because she had experience going about 3 times, she had a knowledge and a network, and she could choose an agency which could offer a good condition. And for case 3, this is the case where the person has chosen Saudi Arabia. Even though the experience was only once, there was a strong intention to choose this destination that had led him to a circumstance where the labor condition was quite limited. For case 4, this is where the aspiration was hindered as a result of capability followed suit. Because he could not get a good match with Japan, he had to change the destination to Malaysia. The final case was a person who focused on going to Japan. So instead of enrolling in the technical training program, he has chosen the specified skilled course, which was supported by his own efforts. to get a certification. This was the case of August, who was a university graduate. This is a case where aspiration increased and also the capability increased together. But this is quite a rare case which constitutes only 1%. Like this, the relation between aspiration and capability can be categorized into four. The hindering factor is community, and fostering opportunities can be experienced and the level of education. The relationship between aspiration and capability and the choice of a destination can be explored by the efforts by the person. But at the same time, another factor that had placed a huge impact were the people who were close to him, because many of them have consulted not only the family members, aunts, uncles, people on the neighborhood, the community leaders. These people have given advice, and many of the applicants have chosen those places. And this tendency was even clear with people who had lower educational level. Only 50% of the university graduate consulted with close people, but for middle school graduate, more than 80%. And more than 60% is high school graduates or below, and only for university it was below 50. But in the case of those who have went to Japan and chose that as a destination, they were more college graduates. Next is the relationship between the income and the labor migration. As you can see from the graph, not necessarily the income level is not the decisive factor that will make the applicant choose the place that they would go. And as you can see, this is the community of origin and international labor migration. Please look at Japan. As you can see, many people from Java, but on the other hand, from Bali, many people will go to Italy and Poland. But then what makes this kind of fixed route in terms of the international labor migration? One of the reasons is the complex process for international labor migration. The government has clearly divided the sending companies and the training centers. However, if you see closer, there are 8 sending training centers, whereas sending companies about 5. That means that these will be multiplied. That will total to more than 40 processes. And there are 2 types of databases and 15 items and 15 expense types that needs to be covered. In order to get the training that they want to get, they will have to first look at the sending agencies and evaluate them and choose the most appropriate one, which can be the reasonable approach. But in reality, this is not really feasible because of its complexity. Therefore, many applicants would rather consult the people close to them. And this complexity actually aggravates the tendency to incline too much on the community. The local community, the training center, sending companies, and employers are connected. The local community would recommend the applicants of the training center and sending companies that they know, which makes it even more difficult for new entries into these industries. And this is clearly recognized by the government because they have a sort of self-support, mutual support relationship. They would just, for example, turn a blind eye on the excessive bills that they would ask the applicant to pay. Or on the other hand, offer some cozy responses to people who they favor. So, in short, the complex route is making seekers to give up, select, and decide their aspired route because it's creating a complexity. On the other hand, the same stakeholders will repeatedly recommend the same destination and the same job. The applicants basically need to think thoroughly about where they want to go and make the best efforts they can. That is the ideal course that we should pursue. But what we need to do is not been implemented. When we look at the reality, we have to create an attractive and safe route, which will be what have been pondered by the applicant by themselves, which can be materialized by making an aspiration capable. From this perspective, what we need to do is to create an aspiration capable route, which can create a more attractive and safe route to Japan. And we need to clarify what kind of measures we as Japanese can take. And this is a question that I would like to ask to all the other participants.
どうもありがとうございました。浅井先生。
Thank you very much, Professor Nasai, researcher Firman, and senior researcher Saito. Thank you so much. So from senior researcher Saito, she shared some highlights of the discussions. So now we would like to ask the comments from two panel discussion on a participant. First, from the professor of Gracia of University of Waseda. My name is Liu-Farrer of Waseda University.
Use English to present my comments. So the whole theme here is to think about how to make the mobility, the labor mobility from Indonesia to Japan possible. So I have two slides. The first one is, I think this through the previous presentations, we have already heard that aspiration and capability are very important kind of base for mobility. So when I was listening to the presentation, as well as because I did the work together with the presenters, I was pondering on another important factor, which is information. Before aspiration could be shaped, I think abundant information is necessary. So where does aspiration come from? That's the situation. So information is very important. From the presentations, as well as my own experience in the field, we found there was a general lack of awareness of Japan as a viable work destination. People think of Japan as a place of anime or safe or good food, but is that kind of cultural attraction, translatable to become a destination for overseas job seekers? And these are different kinds of attractions. And also, we found out that the people who actually obtain information about going to Japan, about working in Japan, oftentimes received information through very random channels, and sometimes the friends, sometimes just even parents or teachers. There wasn't a consistent or systematic information channel or linkages that exist to provide such pragmatic or practical information to the overseas job seekers. This is the kind of status quo that we found in the field, and as presented by Asai Sensei and also Budianto, Ms. Budianto. However, I think maybe if the network can be built up through more migration, there could be more information channels available through communities, through social networks. So there's this possibility of a cumulative causation. However, we cannot just rely on the sort of social networks, community resources. I think probably for Japanese government, it is important to think how you can disseminate this sort of information more correctly and more systematically to a wider range of people. The other issue that I think has emerged from the presentations is really there's something wrong with the infrastructure, the migration infrastructure. Migration infrastructure is a concept that proposed by some researchers talking about how migration actually takes place through different components, the social and institutional, as well as even a kind of technological components. So what we have found out is the significant role of the brokers, the migration industry. So the question is the migration industry avoidable? I think in the current situation, as presented by the previous researchers, I think it's not avoidable because the individual job seekers had no possibility to receive the very technical, bureaucratic, and also very complicated, information, as well as to know the know-how to manage the migration. And so one possibility I was thinking is how can we connect this sort of labor migration down through, say, high school or technical high school or language programs in Indonesia. We did have a couple of cases where we were doing the field work that some individual job seekers received information through their technical high school. So if we are talking about skill migration, we want the sort of skilled workers, maybe we can go into those secondary schools that train skilled workers. So there's some ideas that we have been discussing. Obviously, I think the brokers are still very unavoidable, but I think that we could expand different possibilities. And so one phenomenon that emerged from the fieldwork as well from the presentations is the Japan-bound migration was found to be very separate from other types of migration. For example, from a migration to Malaysia, migration to Taiwan or Hong Kong. And Japan oftentimes has its very distinct programs, and as the presenters mentioned, seem to demand higher costs as well as a longer time. So I just started thinking why. And I think one reason is so far Japan hadn't really done a lot of so-called labor migration from Indonesia. All the so-called the recruitment was for technical interns, the training program. So that, in a sense, designated training centers or standing organizations as necessary players in the migration process. So now if Japan decides that they want, the country needs migrant workers, labor, then probably they can also consider whether they need to kind of have more integrated migration routes with other kind of labor migration channels. But this is just a question that I've been thinking about. And the other phenomenon is really the what the migration scholars call the black box of migration industry, the standing organizations and training center. From Asai Sensei's presentations, you can see that some college educated or university graduates will fail some clinical intern skill test. And at the same time, later on, he could actually just by learning online pass tests. So you wonder what was going on in the training center. And what was the standing organization really was doing, and why there were many failures, because that was not the only case. We also encountered other failures as well. I just thought it was so difficult about, learning a little bit skills to go to Japan. And what was demanded of these people and what were being taught. So that's something I think we need to really think more carefully about skill matching maybe, and how to make this both sides more transparent about what's expected. And also the last point I was thinking is who is responsible for training? The destination country, for example, in this case, Japan, would like to have more human resources or labor from Indonesia. Japan be responsible for some of the costs in training these labor. And instead, currently, it seems like most of the costs were borne by the individual job seekers. And so this is something I think we should all just think about. I think I'll just stop here.
Thank you very much for your comment. We have another panelist today. That is Mr. Nishida-san, JICA expert at the Ministry of Manpower, Indonesia, who supports international migration seekers. He'll be participating from Indonesia online. Hello all. I am working at the Ministry of Manpower in Indonesia. I am an advisor for promotion of accepting and sending foreign human resources. Following Gracia Sensei, I would like to take the floor and give my comment on the foreign migration workers, focusing on the mechanism that is created to send people to Japan. As earlier presented, the complexity of the ascending route is indeed a problem, and I have created this diagram. The left-hand side is Indonesia, the right-hand side Japan. On the left bottom in the training institution, including government agency, educational agencies, or so to say, the institutions that offer education for the job seeker who aim to go to Japan. And LPCAR, Beta ME, this is actually a company. And now please look at the right-hand side, which says support agency. These are the agencies in Japan, specifically on the right bottom. These are the management organization, dispatch agencies, registration agencies that have been in the business from the past. Whereas on the right top It is about the specified skills, relevant organizations. As you can see, the various types of educational institutions is going to have to work with another variety of organizations which will accept the job seekers. Some of will be a good match, but on the other hand, some of them will not be a good match with one another. Firman sensei referred to the expenses that will be incurred. In the case of technical trainees, they'll have to go through 160 hours of prior training. The sending agencies will have to report the expenses that will incurred to the Japanese counterpart. And 160 hours is for Japanese language and also health check and passport, or the main contents of the expenses. In the past, there was an institution that cost more than $2,000. So this is an institution that offers education prior to this 160 hours, and this is the reason why it is very expensive. On the very right-hand side is the specific skills. For these categories, it is a preconditions that they are able to be proficient in the Japanese language. So what they need is the passport and visas, and these kind of paperwork are the factors that incurring the expenses, and it follows the laws and regulations that is stipulated within Indonesia. And you have seen the complex correlations between the sending institutions and also the cost incurred, and in the previous two slides. In order to go to Japan, there are three conditions that need to be met, which have been presented earlier by the other presenters. One of the three is social capital, or so to say, from what kind of people or organization the seeker will get the information. In Japan, following the regulations in Indonesia, unless a person has completed high school, this person will not be allowed to go abroad. The second factor is skill and knowledge. Even though the necessary expense will be provided to the candidate, this person will not be able to go. As I written down in the red characters, the channel to the correct information is the key, because unless this is properly acquired, unnecessary cost will be required to be paid. In the rural areas in Indonesia, many people only go to middle school or elementary school, or even there are people who have not got official education at all. Because of this reason, the Education Ministry in Indonesia have the program called the Budiant, that is, so to say, getting education via communication. By going through this process, a person will be able to acquire a qualification certificate for completing high school. If these people want to go through pre-departure education, sometimes it happens that unnecessary cost will be billed to this person. And here I have summarize the list of additional expenses and its causes and problems. First is the limited access to information about overseas, and And second is lacking the skills and knowledge necessary for the overseas work, which means that they have to pay for the technical qualification or the graduation certificate. And the third point is unable to pay the necessary expenses for the time being, which will and sometimes lead a person to resort to getting the money from shark loans. If a person will have to be ready to pay this amount, which is going to be a huge amount. And now about the possibility of the accumulation of debt may be caused as a result. As Sai Sensei had mentioned, there are several steps persons should go through until they seek a job and then eventually depart the country. First, they'll have an opportunity of interview and recruitment with the Japanese employers. But in the case that they are not accepted, I think there was a case in Asai Sensei's case study. That is to say that when they failed, then they will have to go back to the beginning. That is, go back to the Japanese training language skills and skills experience once again, which will again incur some cost. If this person have to go through this process repeatedly, this person will end up in having a huge amount of cost that needs to be paid. At present, at JICA, we are now providing information and also making efforts to improve the quality of training and to enforce the process of recruiting. We are now taking measures to promote the recruitment of foreign migrant laborers. And these are the four things that we advocate. That is strengthening information provision through various schemes. And the next point is promotion of collaboration amongst various stakeholders. The third point is Japanese language education, aiming to improve language proficiency. And the fourth point is skills training. With these key points in mind, we are promoting measures so that we'll be able to smoothly accept the prospect migration workers. On November 28th, JICA, together with the Labor Ministry, we have reached an agreement to focus on these four measures that I have just introduced in order to promote the acceptance of migrant laborers from Indonesia. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nishida. As previously mentioned, as a common element, the not clear process of the sending, and also the process itself is not well informed to those who are looking for jobs. When I conduct the research in the field, the individual seekers say that they do not know which procedures they need to follow, so they don't just feel that they are actively involved in the procedures. And that was really proved by the presentation of Mr. Nishida. Based on the actual use cases as well as the research result, we would like to have open discussion. Some of the highlights of the discussion would be from the JICA perspective. In order for Japan to be chosen destination, how we should think about the labor forces from outside of the nation. From that perspective, there are three items which are very important in the discussion. First is the human rights protection of the foreign labor forces, and there should be the mechanism for those peoples to demonstrate their capability in an inclusive society where everyone can live comfortably and safely. And I'm sure that these three points should be well embraced by everyone. When we can, according to our survey in Indonesia, even the Indonesian wants to go to Japan, the things prevent them from doing that. So Japan is an attractive nation, but they just ended up not going. They haven't been able to reach to the level that they are ready to go and depart Indonesia. So the sending countries and hosting countries. So hosting countries shouldn't act unilaterally, otherwise that wouldn't be favorable for the sending country. So the environment before arriving in the hosting nation should be well developed. So that could lead to an attractive and safe migration route to be established. From that perspective, so the Professor Farah, the routes were really hard to be visualized and things get black box. And Indonesia has having a high expectation on the newly compiled system in Japan. So they aim to expand the international labor migration. But considering this condition of the training in Indonesia and also the readiness in Japan are not good. So considering all these elements, what we need to look into is that we should become a nation to be chosen. So entire journey of the process from the preparation to arrival at the hosting nations should be well discussed. And there are the things of there's been issues like black boxing or the lower visibility. So the one thing that we can think about is the raising the visibility. So like how the Japan is as an hosting nation and what kind of route needs to be established and how it's like. We received so many questions from the registrant for today's forum. So Japan's differentiation from the other hosting companies and advantages as a nation related questions are quite a lot. So how Japan can differentiate its advantages from other hosting nations, especially around the migration route. Maybe we can start the conversation and discussion openly from that point. As I previously mentioned, there are three critical elements in terms of the hosting the international migration labor. So they should be able to find the career paths, and they should be embraced in inclusive society. So from the job seeker's perspective, the person should be able to arrive at the hosting nation with a sense of safety and security. So eventually that means that supporting agencies should be quality and reasonable. And they should be able to choose the brokers or like mediating an agency is. So such agencies play a very important role in order to make such international migration labor happens, not just a national government level, but community level needs to be considered. And also we need to have it on both aspect, from the hosting nations aspect and from the sending nations aspect. So considering all these like viewpoints, we would like to have discussions. The first point is that the job seeker should arrive at the hosting nation safely. And a system level is very important. I'm sorry, the interpreter cannot hear the original speak clearly, but at first, and then we would like to ask some comment from the Professor Asai. Thank you. But from the perspective of on a cultural psychology, I would like to focus on the psychological aspect of the aspiration. So when it comes to aspiration and the capability, the foundation of that is stated by the very renowned professor of Amalfi University. And aspiration comes from on a human being's innate desire to look for well-being and happiness. So that's like innate desire. And on top of that, there will be the desire for the economy as in society. So that's the aspiration. So social logical aspect is another way to look at the international labor migration. And aspiration and capability should be looked at the same time. And we should understand who will be coming to the nation and what motivates them to come over to them. So this kind of the not a myopic perspective is very important in order to increase the capability of individuals based on the use cases that we have done before. Education is critical. So people with degrees, many of them are actually acquired a degree before coming to Japan as a part of the technical intern training program. But even if they do not possess the degree, people should possess the ownership of building their own careers. And that kind of education is very much important. And technical training has been given to job seekers, but in the context of the individual life, that kind of perspective is never be taught to the job seekers. So the people in Indonesia put the highest priority on economy. If their life gets better and they would like to spend like 2 to 3 hours to earn more income. So I shouldn't use the term, but it's more like ad hoc choice for them. But if they can just establish and build more skill set, and they would be able to seek a better on a career path. That's something that what I learned from the researcher Firman, and that kind of perspective is very important.
アスピレーションというのの中に、
And about aspiration, as a human being, everyone wants to be treated with to respect with sovereignty. This is something prior to aspiration. And as Japan is a country, this is a subject that we should focus on and show the world that Japan as a country places importance on this idea in order to promote aspiration and capability. I believe that this is what we can do from Japan. Thank you very much, Asai Sensei. And not only the skills, but thinking about the career path is another thing that will be necessary, or so to say, have a longer perspective of one's career. When we actually go to the field, cost is a huge hindrance that obstruct people from getting a proper education. We have seen many cases as such because they are working, they cannot study, and if they study, the money that they can keep will decrease. Without any cost, they will not be able to get proper education, and the parents will have to work hard. This kind of thing actually happens. In a midterm perspective, this is a serious problem. And we have focused on these issues. And we have looked at what would be the proper way of the job seeker to get the necessary amount of money to get enrolled to working other countries. You have earlier seen the breakdown of the money that will be necessary. The cost structure that we have presented did have some defects, and Garcia Sensei have a point about that. Everything has been clarified, and the cost is also clearly described, but for some reason, this is not referred to or actually used by the job seekers.
Thank you, Saito Sensei, for the discussion points. Yes, regarding the cost structure, as I already discussed, so there are many problems. The first initial things is that even though 15 elements elements are covered in the cost structures, it doesn't include the training fees. And we also note that there are many challenges in the implementation of the cost structures. The first, truly, the cost structure is regulating the cost structure, maximum cost that migrant work seekers have to pay in each country. So that's why the cost structure for each country is different. For example, maximum cost Malaysia and Singapore or Taiwan is different. But the problem is not all countries is covered in the cost structures. For example, there is no cost structures like to send to countries such as Malaysia and also for Hong Kong, for example. And there is no clear basis of what how the government set the cost structures. So it's just based on the market. I think it's just based on the market, and that's why the cost structures are different from the for each countries. And there is no, and this is very important, there is no like kind of control mechanisms for sending companies who don't align to the cost structures. So there is no, even there is only one mechanism if the migrant workers candidates for other people make a report to BP2MI, and then BP2MI or government can make a action and punish the sending companies. But even when there is no such kind of report, so the sending companies just like take amount of money larger than what is set in a cost structures. So there is no such kind of punishment mechanism and monitoring system set by the government. And also, there is no clear information like clear guidance for the migrant overseas job seekers that they can check. This up to the sending companies like to show the cost structures or not. So not every sending companies have the willing like to show that this is the regulation by the government. This is the cost that you should pay. So not every company do that. That's why a lot of overseas job seekers ended up like paying more than what is written in the cost structures. Okay, thank you. Saito-san, Saito-sensei.
Budiant 先生、ありがとうございました。で、
Thank you very much, Suryaika Sensei. I'd like to add some points. Because in different countries are different types of jobs, it has a huge variety. And even though we say fishery or agriculture, there are various categories. But the cost structure only focuses in only that industry, and theoretically the cost should be disclosed, but it is not actually calculated or even disclosed in the first place. Yet I believe that they are making efforts to be more clear about the cost, yet the necessary information is not ready at this point of time. Because of this circumstance, we do see phenomena that the sending agencies are charging a little higher than the real amount to the job seekers. But because of the variety of job types in the industries, is one of the reasons why this kind of cost structure is not maintained. In addition to this, not only about cost, the safe route is another point. Being fair and the focusing on safety is of utmost importance, and there should be no compromise regarding this point. This also needs to be examined and checked. But we have not been able to do this because we do not have a system to make all the sending agency to check this, and this has not been required. But we have to make sure that this is possible. The quality of the training and the quality of the sending process itself, the quality in this perspective needs to be guaranteed. The government is now making efforts to improve this. And as Nishida-san has earlier mentioned, the training to improve the skills. In Indonesia, there is a system called BNSP, which provides certification for a person's professional skills. This framework is still incomplete because there is still a question whether the certificate will be fully accepted because it makes a difference when the stage of matching. I'd like to ask Nishida-san about the matching process. I know that it is difficult. From a way forward, are you going to tackle this issue as well?
Thank you for asking me for the matching. The matching, I do have a Japanese driver's license. When I came to Indonesia, I couldn't convert it into Indonesian driver's license. So it's like both way, two-way, like a certifications need to be properly understood. And as for the training, and also the training centers managed and controlled by the MOM or polytechnics, managed by the responsible agencies in the government. Spain well manages. The analogy here is that, like, if you want to receive a baseball player, like, what level of capability do you want to have? Just to make a hit level of the people, or like a home run batter is the one that you would like to have? So that's actually just a matching with the local and the companies, but that kind of the idea doesn't make it really feasible. So in Indonesia, a certain level of the skills needs to be required by job seekers. And actually in Indonesia, local prefectures so the government bear the preparation cost for labor migration. So the cost borne by the individual, that's really difficult issues, because if the foreign student study at the cram school, and the cram school fee needs to be borne by the Japanese company, that's probably not the case. So Japan's expecting level of the skills and the requirements, and that should be matched with the job seekers. So two nations need to be aligned mutually. Did it answer to your question? Thank you. Thank you. And we've been receiving questions from attendees of the forum, like how we could leverage the trainings and the education. So we just got the answer to the question from one of the experts. So the skills and capability is one thing. And the assessment of the evaluation in Japan is not consistent. There is no standard criteria in Japan, and a mutual certificate acknowledgement is not well established. And education is not really tied to the level of the capabilities and the skills. This kind of the matching of the educations and qualification system has been introduced in EU and some Asian countries. It is very difficult. So those people who are sent from Indonesia are not necessarily looking for Japan as a destination. So just a mutual acknowledgement is not enough, because that is only limited to the two nations, doesn't have much flexibility. So mismatch or misalignment of the the skills and the capability and those people who are coming to the hosting nations. So that actually leads to the matching between the sending agencies and receiving companies, and the quality matching is extremely important. So black boxing is one of the reasons given hard time to the receiving companies because they do not know where to access to get the proper information. So the things should be flexible, raising visibility. Is there any like a possibility to fix this issue? Nakahara Sensei, can I hear from you?
I was just thinking, what could be done? And when Nishida Sensei mentioned, when that his Japanese driver's license could not be used in Indonesia, but I immediately thought, but you have international driver's license. I think that basically is the point, that we need to have more standardized and mutually recognized or even internationally recognized standards for some professions and, occupational skills. And that's not done in Asia at all. So, and although, I think Saito Sensei has mentioned that just train the Indonesian workers to work in Japan, just to have the kinds of standards that oriented toward employment in Japan, would that cause problem for the overseas job seekers? I think based on our observations in the field, I don't think so. First of all, I think most of the workers who were bound for Malaysia or Taiwan, they were treated as unskilled workers again and again, regardless how many times you work there. Whenever you are recruited, you're treated as unskilled workers. So if Japan wants to kind of, in a sense, enhance its own status among all these recruiters, potential destinations, I think if Japan has this more transparent standards and attract the young workers to work in Japan and knowing what to do, I think it will be a benefit. And currently, I think at least from our observations, the trainings were completely not in a sense, not really useful at all. I think it's mostly kind of cultural training and not necessarily related to real skills. And even the cultural trainings are oftentimes misplaced. So I do think some sort of common framework is good. Even if Japan starts first, I think still it would be good because Japan has been, in a sense, a kind of leader, right, in the region. If it could be the leader destination countries, and also to create a kind of competitiveness among the job seekers, I think it's a good thing.
原先生、ありがとうございます。まさに今、日本が求められるものというのは、
Professor Farrer, thank you. What Japan needs in this context is to be able to provide more visible and transparent, like on a migration rights, and also the skills that they earn in a local destination should be given positive contributions to the career path build, and also on easy to go and easy to earn, so-called convenience store type of the job seeking. But Japan should think about this thing from the career build perspective, and that could lead to the more like the higher advantage over the other destination. And also, as other professor mentions, the matching plays key role here. We received a question from the floor related to the recruiting and trainings. And the community, local community, has significant impact on the migrant workers in Indonesia. So the departure, which is literally the community. So how we should think about this departing or the outset of the procedure is extremely important. There are many different index. On RDA, Responsible Business Alliance, and a Code of Conduct. These are the two initiatives which are ongoing. So the companies form an association to provide fair initiatives. So that set the code of conduct where the Microsoft and a major leading company participated in to pursue the fair recruitment through the fair share of cost and expenses. So that's how the company side has been involved. So these are the things initiated by the receiving companies, but also each one of the parties should look into these things. Another thing is, which is very important, is the existence of union. There's a union institute formed by the Indonesian people. The size of the group is extremely small, but this association is built by the labor forces. So they've been doing so many initiatives from the labor's perspective, and then one of them is a career build.
It is about how they will build up their career after returning to their own country. We give this kind of advice, and also to provide information about what will be the place that they should look for, or to give more detailed information of the destination countries. They develop these kind of activities. I believe that this organization will start to play a more important role towards the future, and we are paying attention to them. So with regard to the question about the index, the guideline has been published for regarding what kind of perspective the job seeker should have as well as what's the perspective of the sending agencies and the receiving agencies. They have provided a guideline to specify these. And whether this will be utilized by the job seekers will be the key. On the other hand, within the community, there is a system that still takes root deeply. That is the recruiters of the community. Everyone in the community will just trust them. Thus, they will follow their advice because in many cases, they are aunts and uncles of the seekers. If the uncle will say that, how about this job in this country? It sounds more reliable compared to the recruiters. Of course, there are benefits of the communities. If the seeker has some concerns, they are capable of supporting them. And they could feel that this is a place that they belong to. When we interview the recruiters during our surveys, and we can you just comment on the relationship between the recruiter and the community? We hold an interview with the community and actually go to the communities. And as a result, it's just like Japan in the old days. If they go to the homes of the members, it's just like a place that they can see the whole community from that house. As we go and visit one of those houses, and then many people from that area are just looking at us while taking care of the children. So naturally, they are able to share information. One of the communities that we visited looked like that. And when we interviewed the youth who were seeking a job in Japan, we can learn that there were actually people who went there. There were trends depending on the time. For example, in their parents' generation, some of the relatives went to other countries. Because the size of a family is quite big in these communities. And as we talked to them, we learned that some of the family members had experience working abroad. And because they live in close proximity, they can communicate with one another with the people who actually have experience working abroad. And beyond the generations, one of the parents' generation who have experience working in Saudi Arabia, if they just give them a buzz, then nowadays Taiwan is good, information on Taiwan will be spread. At the same time, the recruiters come and visit this community because some of the recruiters are rooted in the communities that they get in touch with the young people. Well, the recruiters are actually are the people who are highly trusted within the community. Thus, everybody would think that if you want to learn about something, you just get to the recruiter and ask a question. And I could feel this kind of structure in the community and the relation between the recruiters in our surveys. The good quality information provided by the recruiters will place a good impact on the community. Thank you very much, Professor Asai. I know that there are many things that we would like to discuss, but we are running short of time right now. It's really difficult to summarize what we talked so far. But at least what we felt through our research is the fact that all the steps that sending the person to another destination is important. It's not about training. It's not about community. It's not about getting in touch. Each and every piece of the process has an influence in the process of decision making, of identifying the job and destination that the job seeker would aim at. The sending process is quite vast, and there are processes roughly 1 to 6. Only the existence of a system will not be effective. In order to make it effective, we have to clarify who is accountable for which part. I would like to reiterate that the job seeker's aspiration should be clearly recognized, and capability should be enhanced by the person themselves, and that will be the ideal course. Based on this, we need to send the seekers to the destinations. I know that we are running out of time, so I would like to close the panel discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to extend my thanks to all the five panelists. There was a lot of discussion, and we could learn that the destination needs to be decided based on aspiration, and I hope that Japan will be one of the countries that will be chosen. All the relevant institutions and organizations should have need some collaborated efforts to improve the situation. I am aware that we were not able to answer all the questions and introduce all the comments, but please understand the situation because we will have to end this seminar. And we will still continue our research and proceed into quantitative research, and we will share that results on a later date when it's accomplished. Finally, we would like to ask Mr. Shishido, the executive advisor to JICA to give the final comments. I'm sorry, I am sounding not very good. My voice is not good. Allow this. Thank you very much for all the panelists and members of JICA Ogata Research Institute. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks. People's migration is an important factor in the development process. The reason why people decide the destination and why they are staying in that destination is extremely important. In Japan, this is causing a big debate within our countries because we are now moving on to the specified skilled training system, which also accompanies to set the income, that is to say, the minimum income. I'm actually skeptical of whether this is going to actually reflect it in raising 50 yen or so. However, all the same, the mechanism necessary to invite the workers from other countries, it's not easy to clarify everything, but Indonesia is now making efforts to improve the situation. And during this transition period, I believe that the situation will also change. Amid the situation, the quantitative research is going to be launched. And I hope that this will be able to serve our objective of improving the situation. As it was earlier explained, we have interviewed many ministries in Indonesia, and the labor ministry at Indonesia have offered some opinions that they were ready to support. The brokers is an entity that is not giving us a good impression. But when I ask the Indonesia counterpart about the brokers, they say that it is not necessarily bad. I am sincerely hoping that the economic development of the two countries, as well as the well-being of our people, will be able to improve based on the mutual cooperation amongst the two countries. And I harbor huge expectations towards this end. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Shishido. I have to apologize for the audio condition that was not very good during the webinar. Thank you very much, Shishido-san, for your comment. Again, other panelists, would you please turn on your video? Again, I would like to introduce all the members who participated. We would like to thank them once again. The people were attending via online. After the webinar is over, you'll be able to see the link to a questionnaire survey, or you can just access it via the link in the chat. I hope that you will kindly answer to the survey so that we will be able to reflect it in our future activities, including setting new topics for our future research. With this, I would like to conclude today's Knowledge Forum. Thank you very much all for your kind participation.